welcome back to my channel, The Medieval Reader. So today I wanted to do a bookshelf tour. So this will probably be in a few videos, and the reason why I thought I would make this video is because I am packing away some books, so it'll be a perfect time for me to talk about what books I have and show them to you before I pack them away. So let's begin. The first book I have is 1861, The Civil War Awakening by Adam Goodhart. I bought this for $10 at a street sale. I have not read it. Seeing Justice Done, The Age of Spectacular Capital Punishment in France by Paul Friedland is a fantastic book about capital punishment in the early modern period and how it became more spectacular, as in people would actually go and watch these executions, and they are gruesome. So this is not for the faint of heart, but it was one of the first books that introduced me to the law and literature movement. So here's another great book, From Memory to Written Record by M.T. Clancy. Now this is a book about how a written culture developed in Western Europe and what the process was, and it deals with all kinds of different types of writings, but it begins by talking about record keeping and how record keeping moved from being an oral thing to being written down. It's not really about Western Europe, it's about England. I mean, which is in Western Europe, but specifically about England. So yeah, this one's good. I have The Criminalization of Abortion in the West, Its Origins in Medieval Law by Wolfgang Müller. If I wasn't somewhat of a chicken, I would make a video about this, but I haven't read it yet. So at some point I will read it and I'll make a video about it, but I don't know. John of Salisbury by Carrie Nederman. You will notice that most of the books on my shelves I have not read, and the reason being that I donate the books after I've read them. Even if they're phenomenal, unless I know that I will be rereading them, I don't keep them. So almost all the books on my shelves I have not read. If I have, I'll let you know. Okay, so John of Salisbury. Law and Colonial Cultures, Legal Regimes in World History, 1400 to 1900. I don't know if I want to keep this book. This was for my History of Medieval Law class, and it was really interesting. I'll keep it for now. The Map That Changed the World, William Smith and the Birth of Modern Geology by Simon Winchester. Now, books with change the world in the title are usually not appealing to me, but it's about a map, so it's kind of punny. So of course I was going to go with this book. The Complete Works of Pascal. I will keep that. I'm going to keep my French book separately. The Lady a Saint, a collection of French hagiographic romances of the 13th century. So it's a collection of romances in verse, and they've been translated into English. They don't have the original French, but it was a free book, so of course I picked it up, and it's on saints. So that sounds interesting. I might do one of these one day. Now you can see all the books that will inspire me to make videos in the future. Virgil's Aeneid. Haven't read that. That's one of those books that I need to read because it's just so absolutely essential that I read. Virgil's Aeneid. This is in the Alan Mandelbaum translation. Got it for free. I will keep this here. Later Medieval Philosophy, an anthology, 1150 to 1350 by John Marenbaum. It covers philosophers from... It has like sort of an introduction about university education, and then it covers it definitely covers Aquinas, Scotus, Occam, but it also covers some other philosophers as well. William of Auvergne, Henry of Ghent. Yeah. The Prince by Niccolò Machiavelli. This is the best translation into English of The Prince by William J. Connell. He did come to my university, but unfortunately I was not able to be there when he came, but this is an amazing translation. This I have read, of course, otherwise I wouldn't be able to talk about how great a translation it is, but yes, this is a great translation, and I recommend it. free. This is Gianozzo Manetti against the Jews and the Gentiles. It's one of those books you read for historical purposes. Look how nice these editions are. This is the Itati Renaissance Library. For me to get this for free, it's amazing. It has the Latin on the left and the English on the right. And this basically is a defense of Christianity against the Jews and the Gentiles. I'm guessing Jews and pagans. So, yay for 16th century apologetics in Italy, and it's translated by David Marsh. So, this should be really good, I'm sure. Umberto Eco on literature. I read the first essay. It was very, very good. I will be reading these essays very shortly. And yeah, Umberto Eco basically is who I want to be, except maybe late Middle Ages and 16th century, maybe even into the early modern period. But yeah, this is good. Got it for free again. This is a running theme. So this book, The Ramsay Scallop by Francis Temple. This book I read when I was in middle school. And this was one of the first books I ever read that took place in the Middle Ages. I was one of also the few students in my class who loved this book. It takes place in the 13th century, and there's this boy and this girl who are betrothed to each other, but they don't love each other, and they are sent on this pilgrimage to Santiago del Compostela. So they do the Way of St. James. Now, this book clearly was supposed to have a sequel. Unfortunately, Francis Temple passed away before writing the sequel. Despite that, I love this book, and it will continue to be one of those children's books I recommend for people who want to kind of introduce medieval history to children. And also, I'm so glad that I was able to find an edition at a used bookstore, because it is out of print, I believe, and, you know, it's not, like, super popular, but this book has had a very important place in my literary history, so definitely recommend it. The Door in the Wall by Marguerite de Angeli. So one of the projects that I've been doing, kind of participating in and off and on for the last few years, is reading the Newbery Award winners. When I was a child, I only read fantasy, and most Newbery Award winners are not fantasy, so I avoided them like the plague. But now as an adult, I've been reading them, and for the most part, they've been phenomenal. So I'm really, really glad. This book was published in 1949. The Wolves of Willoughby Chase by Joan Aiken. For some reason, I thought that this book would actually be about wolves. I don't think it is, but I'll read it. Got it from a used bookstore. The 21 Balloons by William Penn Dubois. Haven't read this one. Got it because it's a classic, and should. Oh, look at this. This is nice, isn't it? This one. Le Roman de Renard. I got this for free. I should read this. This, I believe, is a 14th century poem. It's allegorical, and these editions are wonderful if you are, you know, you can read French. The original French is on the left, and the modern French is on the right. Actually, I think this is like 13th century. French is a lot harder. Yeah, I think this is a lot earlier. The Secret History by Procopius. Free. Having dutifully written the official war history of Justinian's reign, Procopius turned around and revealed in the Secret History the other faces of the leading men and women of Byzantium in the 6th century. Justinian, the great lawgiver, appears as a hateful tyrant wedded to an ex-prostitute Theodora. So here is a history about the Emperor Justinian, written by someone who hated the emperor. The Byzantine World by J.M. Hussey. So one of the things I like to do is read older histories, because it gives me an idea about how historiography of the late antique, early modern, or medieval Renaissance, early modern periods has changed over the past century. And yeah, so I like reading these older histories. It gives me an idea of how things have changed, because oftentimes these early historians, the documents they've discovered are really, really valuable. There's some amazing scholarship from the late 19th, early 20th centuries, but they tend to be very nationalistic, and they tend to kind of go for objective history as opposed to try to consider context, who is writing, etc. Also, I just love to see that there are short histories like that, because if it's good, I can recommend it, and it won't take you forever to read. Furthermore, I don't know much about Byzantine history, so this will be a good place to start. Why not? Snowdrift and Other Stories by Georgette Heyer. I did not actually realize when I bought this book for a friend that this collection was actually written in the early 19th century. It is a Regency romance. I knew it was a romance, and it had really great reviews. But yeah, so she read it, didn't love it very much, gave it to me. So now it's up to me to read it, and I have not had the best experience with Regency romances, namely Jane Austen. So hopefully these go well. They are short stories. Catherine Drexel, a biography. So I live in Philadelphia, and Catherine Drexel is buried, well, she's no longer buried in where she used to be. There was a shrine dedicated to Catherine Drexel, but they had to close the shrine, and now she is, I think, in the cathedral. Catherine Drexel ran schools for marginalized children and all kinds of social services for Native American and African American children at a time when this was unacceptable. And I think it's just saints like her that we need to be reminding ourselves of today. It's too bad that her shrine was closed, but I saw that a biography was written of her, and I just love to see what kind of hagiography people write today. The Awakening of Miss Prim, a novel, have not read it. It deals with somebody who loves literature. Somebody gave it to me as a gift, so I will certainly be reading this. It looks like it'll be fun. The Professor is In by Karen Kelsky. I read most of this book, and I would highly recommend it to anybody who's going into a PhD program, particularly in the humanities, and if they are a woman, that's even better. The tips in here are really, really useful and practical. I will, at some point, make an entire video about it. I cannot say anything about The Professor is In is also a service that she provides, the paid service. I have no opinions about it. I have found this to be valuable, and I'm glad I read it before starting my PhD program. Okay, so I have the omnibus edition of Maurice Drouin's Les Rois Maudits. Evidently, this is a series that inspired George R.R. Martin to write his Song of Ice and Fire series. I have no intentions of reading George R.R. Martin because, frankly, he probably will never finish the book, so, like, why would I start? But this is the entire series, and this is all in one edition, and it's in French. So, there you go. They all take place in the 14th century. There is Jacques de Molay, who is the leader of the Templars, and it deals with the 100 Years of War, so that's exciting. We'll read one of these stories at some point, hopefully soon. This is, again, another running theme in this video. Another Country by James Baldwin. As you can see, I started it, I was enjoying it, but then I put it aside. You know, he's a beautiful, beautiful writer. I was having some issues with the representation of women in this book, so I put it down and I haven't picked it up since, but I'll get to it eventually. Alright, so I have volumes 1, 2, and 4 of Bernard of Clairvaux, who was a 12th century Cistercian monk, gave a lengthy allegorical commentary on the Song of Songs, and they have been published in four volumes. I have 1, 2, and 4, and unfortunately, they didn't have 3. So if I can find volume 3, that would be fantastic. But these are books I would never donate. I would never donate these because they're fantastic. I think, though, that these are of different editions, if you can tell. So the first one is translated by Killian Walsh, and then the fourth and the second one are translated by Irene Emmons. Oh no, okay. So 1 and 2 are translated by Killian Walsh, and 4 is translated by Irene Emmons. So, yeah, I would never ever donate these. The Journey of Niels Klim to the World Underground by Ludwig Holberg. If you've been following my channel, you know that I started reading this in Latin, and then I saw an English edition at the bookstore. I might just read it in English first to get a general idea of what's going on, although I was following it. I've been putting off this video forever, but someday I will make a video on travel narratives and utopias. This is one of those because it's my favorite type of literature, and I've read tons of them, and I've reread many of them. It would have to be a really good video though, because when it's something that I'm super passionate about, I want to make sure that I do a really, really good job. Translated by James McNellis. Barnaby Rudge by Charles Dickens. I love Charles Dickens, so fight me. Monades and On the Relics of Saints, the autobiography and a manifesto of a French monk from the time of the Crusades by Gilbert of Nogent. First Western autobiography since Augustine's Confessions, the Monades is set against the backdrop of the First Crusade and offers stunning insights into medieval society. So, you know, that's awesome. So, have not read this, but I've heard about Gilbert of Nogent, and I really want to learn more about medieval English history, because France is a whole different thing, even though French was spoken by the upper class in England forever, okay? Which is the reason why Gilbert of Nogent is French. So I have Monk's Hood by Ellis Peters and St. Peter's Fair by Ellis Peters. I have read now, I believe, 3 Ellis Peters novels. They are all historical fiction, set in a Benedictine monastery in the 12th century, I think. Brother Catfile is the monk who is also the detective. He discovers murders that occur in and around the monastery, and I absolutely love them. I think Ellis Peters is brilliant. She's a woman, I feel like I need to say this. Ellis Peters is a pseudonym. Her real name is Edith Pargeter. Fire from Heaven by Mary Renaud. Never read Mary Renaud. Yeah. So, there you go. Pilote de Guerre by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. So Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, I've read almost everything by him multiple times. I absolutely love him. He's one of my favorite authors of all time. The Little Prince being my favorite book of all time. And this is one of the autobiographies I actually have not read by him. Flight was extremely, extremely dangerous in the early years. So dangerous. And he went through a lot before he crashed in the Mediterranean Sea and he disappeared. They found his plane in 2000. It's really, really tragic. He talks a lot about the death of his friends and, you know, all of that. But anyway, I have not read this, but will do soon. Rue des Boutiques Obscures by Patrick Modiano. This is a really nice one. So this is a mystery. So it's an experimental work that is kind of like a detective novel, and really liked it. So there you go. I have the Œuvre Spirituelle by César de Notre Dame. This is the son of Michel de Notre Dame, also known as Nostradamus. So yes, his son wrote spiritual works. Joanneau Martorell, Tales of the White Knight, Tyran le Blanc. So Tyran le Blanc is, alright, who's the author and which is the work? This is a Catalan 15th century work, spicy, brutally realistic novel of knights and ladies of medieval times. Evidently, Miguel Cervantes said it was the best book in the world. Tales of the White Knight, Tyran le Blanc. I think the author is Joanneau Martorell. In any case, the original book is like extremely, extremely long, and this is an abridged version in English. I got it for free. Of course I was gonna take it. La Vie Saint-Marcel de Limoges by Rocher de Denain. Again, free. This is a 13th century saint's life. Drôle publishes a lot of medieval works. I have the complete poetries of François Villon. Yeah, this is a cover, isn't it? François Villon was a criminal, a murderer, a thief, and also an incredibly accomplished poet. So that's interesting. I have Le Moyen Âge by Henri Faucillon. Basically, I got this book after the Notre Dame fire. I was like, ooh, a book on cathedrals, and it just basically gives you a history of cathedrals. And, you know, more ideas for videos. So of course, this is great. Keep that with me. La Quête du Saint Graal, translated into modern French by Emmanuel Baumgartner. So there are so many different stories of the Grail legend. The original one was written by Crétin de Troyes. It's called Perceval, ou Le Comte de Graal. This is part of the prose Lancelot, which is this enormous, so many thousand-page, epic Arthurian romance. And this is the section on the Grail legend. I have to know this for my PhD exam, which will be at the end of next year. And oh, do I have books that I need to read. It's crazy. Le Roman d'Apollonius de Tyr, again, free. You know, I have a lot of free books, because free is good. And especially when they're French like this, and some of these are scholarly editions, I am going to snatch it up if it is at all interesting to me. And of course, all of these are very, very interesting to me. And then, now, I have Gargantua, I have Pantagruel. I've read Pantagruel. This is Le Tiers-Livre and the Quart-Livre by Rabelais, who was a 16th century satirist. He basically wrote about these giants named Gargantua and Pantagruel, and they are highly, highly inappropriate. Keep them far away from your children. They're super funny. If you like Monty Python and have a Monty Python humor, you will love Rabelais. I have such mixed feelings about Rabelais, especially because his representation of women can be very, very problematic. But these were free, and I need to know Rabelais. In fact, I might be doing more work on Rabelais in the future. Le Livre du Cœur d'Amour est pris by René d'Anjou. This is a 15th century? Yes. 15th century romance. I have read this. It is pretty interesting. It follows a heart that, like, it's basically like a chivalric romance, okay? But the knight is a heart, like an actual heart with legs that wears armor. It's really interesting. And it's got some, like, look at these. So these are pictures of the manuscript. This is the Vienna manuscript. This is cool. Anyway. So yes, I've read this. This is good. And then this is Jean de Saint-Tray by Antoine de La Salle, which everybody under the sun tells me is absolutely phenomenal, and I have not read it. And it's 15th century, so it'll be very readable. I really do want to read this soon because I've just heard such great things about it. So anyway, that is my bookshelf tour / me packing away books. Oh, I missed one. The Age of Bede, translated by J.F. Webb and H. Farmer, depending on what the story is. I actually just got this. I didn't buy it. Got it for free. I got this for Bede's Life of Cuthbert, and I finished that. And I also would like to read The Voyage of St. Brendan. I'm almost done with that. Once I'm done with it, of course, I will donate it like I donate everything else. So yes, that is my video. Let me know if you've read any of these, and I hope that you found this interesting. I will make my second part, or there might be even more parts than that, in the future. Thank you everybody for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye now!